Hi. This time, I think this video is going to be somewhat complex. First, I wanted to make this my thoughts on the third part of the Dark and Terrible campaign sort of video. But then I read this comment by the PDF gamer. He's one of my viewers in Odyssey. He was commenting on my video where I talked about rules, meta currency, how they are handled in an unobtrusive way, or in a way that it doesn't affect the immersion. And he agrees, but he mentioned that a certain degree of discipline is necessary when it comes to roleplay. And this connected perfectly to a conversation that I talked with Crispy and Josh last night after we stopped recording. Sometimes we have these like off the cuff or off camera conversations. Now, obviously, I am not going to mention what they shared in that conversation, because if they wanted to share that with everyone, they would have spoken about that during the recording. I'm just going to talk about my own thoughts on the conversation, but also how this connects with the discipline mentioned by PDF Gamer. I think that in order to enjoy tabletop role-playing games, you do require a certain degree of discipline. Like in many activities, for example, sports, you need discipline if you want to actually play the sport. Have fun while doing so. Exercising the body. In the case of tabletop role-playing games, you exercise the mind. It requires discipline. And this perfectly explains why there are so many mediocre players out there that do not roleplay in a tabletop role-playing game. If you take a look at their lives in general, at least what they share, there is a total lack of discipline in many things that they do. So it's obvious that they won't be applying discipline in tabletop role-playing games because it is not their way. It is not their style of life. They simply let themselves fall into mediocrity. I was incredibly impressed with Josh and Crispy because, if you watched my actual play, and this video will contain spoilers of the third part of the Dark and Terrible campaign, there was this moment where there was a technical difficulties with StreamYard. I was kicked out of the recording and I was really worried. I was, oh no, is this going to ruin the recording? Because this is the first time that it has happened to me. So I was thinking, is it still recording? Am I able to return to the session? But when I came back, I just saw Crispy and Josh, and they were role-playing. Through the power of roleplay, through the achieved immersion, they kept control of things. That's so professional, so admirable. I think it was in the movie Hero, right? Where there is this school of people that, experts in calligraphy, and they are tracing their symbols, and suddenly their center of learning gets attacked and they start to shoot arrows into the center, and people start to die all around until the hero arrives, of course. But the instructor keeps saying, keep on writing, keep on tracing, and they are so dedicated to their craft that even if something were to happen, they are going to complete that task. So you can tell that Josh and Crispy, they are quite disciplined. Even though there were difficulties, they kept on role-playing. And I think that discipline is so lacking in most of the cases. In the case of PDF Gamer, he said his group is currently playing the Cypher system. And you know that in that system, there are some meta currencies or meta elements, so to speak. You have these cards to represent intrusions and whatnot. So you need to keep that roleplay focus. You should never speak out of character. When it comes to the game element, you're obviously going to mention the result of the die roll, or in this case, the card that you are using. You could be role-playing and I'm using this card to do this or that, and that's it. But you always remain in character. Those are the rule elements of the game. A role-playing game is both you are playing a role, but you are also playing a game. And you need to combine both. If you're not combining both aspects, you are doing something else. Some people play it just like a party game. I think in most cases, they play it like a party game. The typical, oh, and you start to drink, and you eat snacks, and you're, oh. Imagine how disgusting our campaign would be if we were to be like, hey, okay, now, you're entering the mysterious keep. It's kind of like that movie, right? And then you see the guard, oh, let's talk to the guard. Oh, and in the night, you hear these laments coming from somewhere in the keep. Maybe they're going, ooh. They look like drunk party girls. That's not the sort of way of playing a tabletop role-playing game. For people that are not disciplined in many aspects of their lives, tabletop role-playing games, it's simply impossible for them to understand why we roleplay. We roleplay to achieve immersion. This is not a stage performance. You can upload your actual plays, but the true reason why people roleplay is because they achieve immersion. Once you achieve immersion, once you attain that, it is impossible to go back. As I have mentioned in another video, it will be like going back to crawling after you learn how to walk, run, jump, climb. Like I said in that video, you can crawl to look for things under the bed, but you're not going to be crawling on your way to work. You're not going to be crawling on your way to the kitchen. You're not going to be crawling to your car. You are walking, perhaps running if you are getting late. If it's too late, you're going to run. So, when it comes to the discipline in tabletop role-playing games, it is a real focus. As there are people that actually confuse focus with immersion. Oh my God. It's a focus on roleplay, and once roleplay happens, immersion comes immediately. It is attached to roleplay, and then you are actually living the adventure. Big Bad RPG. He said in a comment, I don't remember where he said it, but he said, I don't want to have fun, I want to live an adventure or have an adventure. Well, I think that it's always possible to have fun. We are always having fun when role-playing, interacting with the game world, etc. But I get his general idea. When you attain or achieve immersion, you are there. In this part of the Dark and Terrible campaign, as always, I am experiencing the game world through many different senses, from the senses of the enemies, the allies, the player characters themselves. I can only imagine what cfourcrispy and Josh felt when they decided to investigate those sounds. They had already been warned that there is this superstition, or there was this belief that if you got to the source of those lamentations, you will be cursed. But they still decided to carry on. And again, I am very impressed with how they manage the navigation through the underground environments. This is a difficult to handle aspect for many dungeon masters or game masters, but that's because there is not enough roleplay. Through roleplay, Crispy and Josh can navigate any sort of dungeon environment because they are always in character, appraising the situation. I look at this section of the room to obtain more details about the architecture, or I look to the east to see the exact distance between the doors. They can always obtain or appraise the situation through roleplay. Only someone that is surely that person has some sort of mental problem. Someone that needs to ask out of character questions, when you can easily achieve that. You can easily achieve that and more through roleplay. There is absolutely no need to go out of character to obtain information about the game world. And once again, the game master, dungeon master does not exist. These people that do not roleplay, they are playing tabletop role-playing games without roleplay. They are trapped within dimensions. They are not in the physical realm. They are not in the fictional world, they are stuck in limbo. They don't know what they are doing. So I do think that some discipline is required. It feels a bit bad when I say this. I'm not going to call out who, but there is a member of the role-playing nights, that is, he seems to grasp what role-playing is all about. When you see him in another game, in character, he does a pretty decent job. But then he had this idea of running this online campaign or online adventure, and it sounded so cool on paper. And what does he do? He gets a lot of clowns. You can only call them that at most like 5 or 6 people. You only had like one player that was attempting to roleplay, and the other ones, they are just there to play a party game. Oh, can I see? Can I see? What does my character see? Can I see? Can I attempt to? Is there like do I know what the how could someone that already knows about roleplay regress like that? You don't need a bunch of clowns to play. You don't need a bunch of clowns. You need mature people. Mature people. Get yourself mature players. Even if they are, no matter the age, if they are mature, they are here. I am here to roleplay. They have a purpose. Could be old, adult, even teenagers. Even if they are mature, they are there to roleplay. They are not there to fool around, clown around. Those people, they are stuck in a party game mentality. There is no way to get them out of it. But yes, it is very disappointing that player, he looks like he understands the concepts of roleplay, and at the moment of truth, everything goes crashing down. I have to say, I have said even in this video, once you walk, why would you want to return to crawling? Why don't you walk? Why don't you run? Why don't you jump? Why don't you climb? Why don't you roleplay? Now I have my suspicion, because I have seen that those that regress to that situation, they are addicted to a certain substance. They say that substance is not harmful. That's the lie. You know how governments play this, how you call it, reverse psychology game, where they tell you not to do something and you do it because they tell you not to, or they suddenly put this little lie that, oh, that substance is actually not harmful, and still the government said that it's not harmful. So the contradiction, right? You're doing it to stick it to the man, but at the same time you're listening to the man. So they consume that substance, and that substance has some very terrible effects on the human mind. It makes it, to put it, there is no other way to put it, it makes you a bit retarded. So I wonder, I do have to wonder if it's because they are constantly consuming that, or they have consumed that. Sometimes if you take a lot of that stuff, you can cause some pretty bad damage here. So I wonder if that's the reason why they regress, because they are floating who knows where, their minds turn to mush, and suddenly, can my character, can I look around, can I? So yes, and you have to say these things, because if you're constantly like, no, everyone is playing fine, and there shouldn't be any excellence in roleplay, we should all be mediocre. No. Everyone should express their opinions. A lot of you already know that there are mediocre players out there that are quite open when it comes to attacking roleplay, because it reminds them of their mediocrity. Their greatest fear is that through roleplay, they are exposed as mediocre players. So once again, I think there is a need of discipline. Your own discipline, self-discipline. Are you there to roleplay? Or are you there to have a mother may I conversation? Are you there to play a distorted version of a board game? In our conversation, at least that's what I thought, I got the idea that if you watch an actual play of a board game, it is more enjoyable than watching an actual role-playing session with no roleplay. A contradiction, right? Because when you watch an actual board game play, it is expected for them to talk out of character. You are playing a board game, you are applying the rules, everyone is having fun in that way. But when it comes to tabletop role-playing games, because you are playing a role-playing game, there should be roleplay, because if you attempt to play a tabletop role-playing game as a board game, and suddenly you're trying to roleplay but you are not, it becomes distorted, a sort of aberration. Now, this is not to criticize those that accept that they are not role-playing. They have their own way of playing tabletop role-playing games, but you could say that from the very start, they are not attempting to roleplay. They are playing it as a board game. That's fine. You can take a role-playing game and play it as a board game, but if you trick yourself, if you fool yourself into believing that you are role-playing a tabletop role-playing game, or that you are playing an actual tabletop role-playing game, when you are not only you are not role-playing, you are also discouraging others from roleplay, and that's living a lie. So I think this concludes this video. I hope it was informative and entertaining. There were some harsh words, but they are very necessary. In current times, people have become so weak. You have soy boys, you have very weak individuals that crumble before any sort of difficulty. And it's a paradox, because the heroes that they admire, the heroes that they so admire in anime, role-playing games, manga, movies, they are the complete opposite of them. You like those tough, brave, strong heroes because they do not crumble, they are not mediocre, they are disciplined in every area of their lives. Even in the most absurd cases, there is something quite likable about a flawed character that still attempts to stick to an objective. So it's truly a paradox. In order for you to understand what is wrong, you need to point out what is right, and vice versa. Thank you for watching this video. As always, thank you for your likes and your comments. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. And remember, it is better to roleplay and fail in character than not to roleplay and fail as a player. Once again, thank you, and see you later.